Hello and welcome to my introduction video on the two new 70 to 200mm L series lenses. Now we actually have four of the 70 to 200mm lenses in our lineup, which can be quite confusing, but basically we have two f4 versions and we have two 2.8 versions, and the difference between them, we do an f4 with image stabilizer or without an image stabilizer, and the same goes for the 2.8s. We do one with an image stabilizer and one without. The two new ones that I'm showing you today are the new image stabilized versions. So we've got the 70 to 200 f4 and we've got the 70 to 200 2.8. First of all, let's have a look at the 2.8 and see what's new on this lens. So this lens is a real workhorse lens. I say this because a lot of professional photographers use this lens, or this is their go-to lens for a lot of different situations. Say for instance, if you're shooting inside a church and it's very dimly lit, this is the lens that you want, or if you're doing sports and action photography, especially in this country, and when the weather isn't quite so great, you've got poor lighting, this is the type of lens that you want to use. When we upgraded the Mark 1 version to the Mark 2, there was a massive increase in optical image quality, and this was an amazing step forward for this lens, and it really became that synonymous with high image quality and with the Canon brand. So it's a very, very popular lens for us. I don't think it can be overstated how powerful this lens is in our lineup. So this one, the new version, has inherited the same optical performance as the predecessor, which is great to have the same optics inside them, tried and tested optics. A lot of the changes on it are more cosmetic or more about how the lens can be used. Now, one of the main things that we have improved on here, which I'm really pleased about, is the coatings. So the coating we've added to this lens is our ASC coating, which is our air sphere coating. And basically the idea of this is to reduce flare and ghosting. I don't know if you've seen these effects in your photography before. That's where stray light at obtuse angles can come into the lens and bounce around and create a sort of softness to your image. Whereas what this coating does, it'll cut down the stray light that's coming in and make sure images are a lot clearer and a lot sharper, which is really, really nice. And it's quite interesting that the Mark II version still had a very, very old coating that was been around for a long time. That hadn't been upgraded, so it's really great to see that it's been improved on this Mark III. One of the other things we've added to the lens elements on here is we've added our fluorine coating, and this is the coating which repels water and oil and things like that. So if you are using this in harsh conditions, and remember this is the type of lens that gets bashed around and used a lot in all sorts of conditions, any rain or any water or any oil that gets onto the front or the back lens element will just run off. It won't stick to the lens. So all you'll know is you're getting better image quality, but that is all about having this coating. So the image stabilizer inside here is exactly the same as its predecessor, so it's the 3.5 stop IS system. Now you might say, hang on a minute, isn't it a 4-stop IS system? Well, actually when the Mark II came out, image stabilizers weren't CEPA tested, but now they are. So it's been downgraded from a 4-stop to a 3.5 stop, but it is the same image stabilizer system as its predecessor. So one of the key selling points, I think, for the 2.8 version or for this lens is its toughness. Its construction, its build is well known for being able to deal with lots of knocks and the kind of things that you get in a professional environment or when you're shooting outdoors, basically. And this follows on from that. Now, if we look at it against its predecessor, if I put these two side by side, you can actually see some of the differences that's on there. You can see that we've changed the white slightly. We've got rid of some of the letter types and this kind of thing, just to clean the lens up really and make it look a little bit more up to date, I suppose, with its latest with our latest L series lenses. But as you see, if you've used the f2 version, you'll be able, if you've used the Mark II version, you'll be able to jump onto and use the Mark III straight away. It handles in exactly the same way. Now let's have a look at the f4. You can see there's a significant amount of changes on here. First of all, let's have a look at the design of it. So you can see that it does look quite different. It's actually slightly longer as well. It's slightly taller. There's only a little bit in it. And what you will notice, which I really like, is it's now up to a 72mm filter thread on the end of it, whereas this one is a 67, which is a more unusual size. But to have it to 72 now means that it's very similar to other lenses that we have in our lineup. So your filters will be, you can move them from your other lenses onto here quite easily. Now the construction inside, once again, the lens elements inside are almost exactly the same as the previous version. So the construction of this one is pretty much exactly the same as the construction of this one as far as the lenses are concerned. What we have done is the end lens element has been moved slightly further away, and this does a couple of things. I mean, the main thing that it does really is it gives you a better minimum focusing distance. So it's gone down from 1.2 meters with this one to 1 meter, which means you can get that a little bit closer to your subject, so you can enlarge it and make it that little bit bigger. Another thing you'll notice on the outside of this lens is it has a 3-mode image stabilizer, whereas the predecessor only has the 2 modes. I won't go into what those are about now, but I can cover that off in another video if you want to find out a little bit more about IS. So in the same way that 2.8 has been improved, this one has also got added coatings on it as well. It's got the ASC coating to eliminate flare and ghosting, to give you much clearer, sharper images. It also has the fluorine coating on the front and the back, and this repels water and oil and things like this to stop you from getting those contaminants when you're shooting. Another thing that's been improved on this one, which you won't be able to see until you actually start shooting with it, is it has a 9-blade aperture. So the previous one has an 8-blade and this one has a 9-blade aperture. What this means is you get a much nicer background blur to your imagery, so when you shoot, and you really have to see the images side by side to fully appreciate what this is. Or actually look at some of our competitors' images and then look at ours, and you can see that the difference having these extra blades on the apertures makes. It gives you a much nice rounder bokeh effect, and really does give you a much, as I say, much more pleasing background image. So there's 2 other improvements on this lens that I actually really like. One of them is we've tapered the zoom ring, which really does give you a lot of grip when you're handling the lens. If you look at it compared to the predecessor, you see this is a flat and this has got quite a taper to it, which means it feels much more secure when you're using it. Also, the other thing that's really nice is they've improved the weather protection on here, so there's more dust seals and, as I said, more weather protection. Now, I have to say I really like the f4. So a lot of people skip over the f4 lens and look straight directly at the 2.8 simply because it does look a lot more impressive, but I actually really like the f4. If you own something like an 80D or a 6D Mark II, I find the f4 version much nicer to use. It's smaller, lighter, and more cost effective as well. But the 2.8 can get you out of those tricky situations if you really are dealing with low light conditions. So there you go. That's a very quick rundown of the new 70-200mm lenses. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments section below and give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Thank you for watching.